Hey, you know what time it is? It's time for a short clip from the main show. We hope you enjoy this.
Well, according to the New York Times, and their headline is A Wellness Company with False Claims, Global Aims, and a Toronto Island. A little known European company with big ambitions has drawn public outrage in Canada's largest city. The company, which runs a spa and water park in Romania, is laying extensive plans to develop similar facilities around the world. Its contract in Toronto was offered a blueprint of sorts, a favorable 95-year lease in which the Ontario government bears the upfront cost of hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's Ontarians' money. Auditors last year found the contracting process had been unfair and opaque, just as the European spa company Therme was pushing forward its plans for a multi billion dollar expansion to other major cities in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. Here's where it gets interesting, though. A New York Times investigation showed that in pitching itself to the world, Therme has misrepresented itself, misleading the Ontario government and exaggerating its experience in its bid to secure the Toronto deal.
Shocker.
The investigation, based on corporate filings in 3 countries and interviews with a dozen people involved in the company's operation and the bidding process, found that Therme falsely presented itself as an industry player that operated as many as a half dozen spas in Europe. In fact, it had built and operated just one outside Bucharest, Romania. And as it pitched its vision for Toronto, Therme's finances appeared to be shaky. Auditors found it was losing money and had less than €1 million in equity. The Toronto project gave the company a vital boost and laid the foundation for more growth. Therme secured funding for a similar project in Manchester, England, and made plans for one in Dubai. It is also closing in on a deal to redevelop federal waterfront land in Washington overlooking National Stadium and is seeking approval from the Dallas City Council for a project there. Each project costs about $500 million, meaning Therme will need at least $2.5 billion to deliver them. Company executives are unfailingly confident, selling their vision through appearances at events like the World Economic Forum in Davos and the Venice Biennial. That vision is based on the idea that around the world there's a vast untapped market of people who will pay about $40 to relax, socialize, or talk business at a facility that's part water park and part bathhouse, with flourishes like swim-up bars, towel dance performances, and film screenings in a sauna. Bathhouse. Now, what does that bring to mind? Anyway, companies often use hyperbole to raise private sector money, but Therme first won a key government contract based on its business portfolio, then set out to build that portfolio. Since Therme is pursuing not just investors but also government contracts, it has found itself under closer scrutiny than it would have were it doing strictly private sector deals. Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, who won re-election in February, has faced criticism over his administration's perceived coziness with developers. You don't say. In recent years, the local press reported that he promised an audience of real estate representatives to rezone a chunk of a nature reserve, the Greenbelt, and open it for construction. In the Therme deal, in which the company is leasing an artificial island in Lake Ontario, Mr. Ford's government took several unusual steps that reduced oversight. The entire island's development was exempted from key environmental checks and was classified as a real estate transaction, allowing the government to avoid more rigorous reviews and standards typical in public contracting. The province's bidding process itself was unusual. Participants had to sign non-disclosure agreements, and according to several bidders who spoke on condition of anonymity because they had signed those agreements, there was a disclaimer. The government could choose whatever company it wanted, whether or not it had met the bidding requirements or even submitted a proposal.
What?
Yeah, right? I'm like, so
Did the RCP read this article?
I don't know, but I hope somebody sent it to them. Infrastructure Ontario, the government agency that managed the bidding, said in written comment to the Times that the process was designed to be flexible while still being infused with some of the best practices from more formal procurements. The agency refused to answer follow-up questions. The province of Ontario is fronting $500 million for this, and they get to choose who builds it despite whether or not they even submitted a proposal. Mr. Ford, who's often declined to comment for this article, has championed the Therme project. They're coming here to build a state of the art, one of the most beautiful facilities that they have right across the world, he told the news media in 2023. We're fortunate to have them pick Toronto, except they haven't built right across the world. They've built one in Bucharest. Mr. Ford's comments mirrored what Therme had told his government. Therme Group has proven the success of its concept with 6 globally placed facilities under operation, the company said in 2019 in its bid for the Toronto Island property. Therme's apparent global experience boosted its bid. The Ontario government believed that the company had a proven track record in delivering similar projects. The team evaluating the bid wrote in its note at the time. In 2023, the company doubled down. Therme Group currently operates 4 large-scale facilities in Germany and Romania, it told the Ontario authorities. In fact, the only spa Therme had ever operated was in Romania, where visitors can enjoy baths, saunas, and water slides year-round under a climate-controlled glass dome. The facility is lush with orchids and palm trees. Therme's founder, Robert Hania, says he selected them personally in Florida, Malaysia, and Thailand. So, how could this company headquartered in Austria and running one facility in Romania persuade the Ontario government that its business portfolio was far larger than it actually was? The hint lies in the company's insignia on riff on Botticelli's Venus. It bears a striking similarity to the logo of another European spa complex, one built and operated by an entirely different company with the same name. And I'm going to show that image to you right now because you got to see this.
Oh my! Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. It's out of this world, off the charts, ridiculous. Wait till you see this. This is the image, okay? So there's Therme Erding with the Botticelli Venus on the right, and Therme Bucharesti with the Therme Spa that is scamming the province of Ontario. The logo of Robert Hinia's Therme Spa in Bucharest closely resembles the logo of the Therme Spa founded by Joseph Wund. Yeah. Same namesake logo. In an interview with the Times, Mr. Hinia recounted touring the spas and water parks of Europe in the mid-2000s, looking for inspiration for a piece of land he owned near Bucharest that sat on top of geothermal springs. That brought him to the thermal baths of Erding, Germany, a town northwest of Munich, he said. The owner was a businessman and architect named Joseph Wund, who had built several spas and communal baths across the country. Mr. Wund's company was called Therme. The two men struck up a friendship, and when Mr. Henia launched his Bucharest spa in 2016, he called it Therme Bucharest, a kind of homage to his friend's company. Mr. Henia's new venture used a variation of Mr. Wund's company logo, but the two ventures had no business connection. While Mr. Henia said he spoke frequently with his friend, the men most often talked of loftier things than spas, preferring to focus on the future of humanity philosophy, Mr. Henia said. In 2017, Mr. Wund was killed when his private plane crashed. Mr. Henia did not inherit his friend's spa company. Instead, he inherited its story. While the German spas continued operating as distinct businesses, they became indistinguishable from Mr. Henia's spa in public discourse and, importantly, in submissions to the Ontario government. The company representative said Therme's wording could have been more precise and that references to its success in Germany were meant to communicate that the concept of Therme had been successful because of Mr. Wund's track record in Germany. Mr. Henia replicated the model, the representative said, and felt he had contributed to it in his conversations with his friend, an agreement between the two companies to share information. It goes on from there, but I think that kind of says it. Yeah?
Going.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this is juicy.
Even before he built the Bucharest spa, Mr. Henia was considering expanding, he told the Times. He predicted nothing less than that the Therme concept would become necessary infrastructure for the modern age, a gathering place akin to the Roman baths for people of all ages and walks of life. But his company's finances were tenuous. Ontario government analysts concluded as they reviewed the bids, Therme had low liquidity and it was not cash flow positive, one Infrastructure Ontario advisor wrote in a 2022 email that was made public as part of the auditor's report. The financial condition of the Therme Group auditors would later conclude appeared weak. For a company with one location and a delicate balance sheet, Mr. Henia spent aggressively. He hired more than 200 engineers, architects, and experts who had worked for Mr. Wund. The company engaged in extensive public relations work, sponsoring cultural events and discussions on design and wellness, setting up information booths at major civic fairs. Such spending was made possible because of another of Mr. Hennia's friends, Hubert Spiegel, a longtime executive of an Austrian engineering firm that specializes in heating and cooling. The company, A-Heat, has been a patient partner. A-Heat and Therme executives said, having invested extended loans and bankrolled Mr. Hennia's business through the pandemic. This was key to Therme's pitch in Canada. Whatever its own numbers showed, its backing was solid. Mr. Spiegel did not agree to interview with the Times. Financial filings in Romania, Germany, and Austria show a network of linked Therme corporate entities borrowing money from and doing business with each other. The complexity of that structure makes it hard to draw conclusions about the company's financial health. A spokesman for Therme said the structure was a function of the complexity of its businesses across continents. The Toronto deal was a high-profile affirmation for Therme. Announcements about new projects and outside investment followed. The company had also been stepping up its PR work. With an eye toward the American market, Mr. Hennia recruited and hired urbanists. One was a co-founder of the Highline Park in New York. Another was a prominent real estate development consultant with expertise in privately financed public parks. Therme bought multiple art installations from the Serpentine Gallery in London. Company spokesman said that Therme planned to incorporate art into its new facilities. The company flew community representatives and social media influencers to Romania to visit Therme Bucharest. Therme is a major corporate donor to the Kennedy Center in Washington, and Mr. Hennia serves on its corporate board. The mayor's office there confirmed that Therme has submitted a development proposal for Poplar Point, 110 acres of waterfront along the Anacostia River, now managed by the National Park Service. Therme is also eyeing 22 acres of land near the Trinity River in Dallas for another project and is seeking formal approval from officials there. Last December, nearly 2 decades after Mr. Hennia first visited Mr. One's spa near Munich, his company bought it, drawing on a $335 million loan that it secured from Sydney-based Macquarie Capital, an investment firm owned by a major Australian bank. Therme had finally purchased a spa it had claimed to run. In 2025, Therme announced its first new outside investors. An American real estate investing firm, Sculptor Capital Management, invested $250 million to start work on the stalled Manchester complex. A New York real estate firm, the Georgetown Company, bought a 25% equity stake this year in Therme's U.S. business. That deal, Therme said, would help it develop 10 American projects in the coming years.
Oh my God.
The
This is
company has yet to secure outside investment for its Toronto project, but the Ontario government has been busy clearing land for Therme on West Island. Local residents woke up one morning in October to find that dozens of old trees had been ripped out. The lease with Ontario requires Therme to start building by spring 2026. Wow. That was co-written by Martina Stevis-Gridnoff and Rebecca R. Ruiz. Martina reported from Toronto and took a boat to West Island in Lake Ontario, where Therme Ontario will be developed. Rebecca Ruiz reported from London and visited Therme Bucharest in Romania, and that is from the New York Times. That is what we call in the business, folks, scathing. Somebody should go to prison, and I think
wow.
that alone could bring down the current government of Ontario, and it should. It should.